lethal vacuum of space. Out here, the environment lacks any atmospheric pressure, swings between freezing and boiling temperatures, and is flooded with intense radiation that destroys living tissue in seconds. Yet NASA scientists intentionally exposed a living animal from Earth to this exact environment and brought it back alive. This microscopic image shows the creature capable of that impossible survival. Meet the tardigrade. Notice its distinct side profile, the 8 clawed legs and the circular mouth part that allow it to interact with its environment. What the image doesn't immediately convey is their scale. Tardigrades hover right on the edge of the microscopic, typically measuring somewhere between 50 and 500 microns long. You would strain to see one with the naked eye. Because they can survive the vacuum of space, they have become undeniable celebrities of the microcosmos. That their fame often skips over the reality of what they actually are. In this image, you can clearly see the segmented, chubby body and raised, stumpy legs that earn them their most common nickname, water bears. At a glance, they look remarkably familiar, like miniature versions of the macro animals we see every day. This anatomical diagram reveals how complex they are inside. Despite being microscopic, a tardigrade can contain over 40,000 individual cells. They have digestive tracts, salivary glands, small brains, and even eyes, though incredibly, each eye is composed of just a single photoreceptive cell. But that familiarity is an illusion. This phylogenetic tree shows the clade Tactopoda. On one side, you have Euarthropoda, a massive branching network that includes every insect, arachnid, and crustacean on the planet, literally millions of species. On the other side, sitting completely alone on an isolated branch, are the tardigrades. They are not closely related to anything else on Earth. Between their biological complexity and their total evolutionary isolation, they operate like a strange alien presence that just happened to evolve right alongside us. And then there are the environments they can endure. If you expose a tardigrade to extreme thermal shocks, they can survive temperatures dropping to a freezing -272 degrees Celsius or skyrocketing to a boiling 150 degrees Celsius. If you drop them into the deepest ocean trenches, the crushing pressure doesn't faze them. They can withstand up to 6,000 atmospheres of pressure, far beyond what would crush a modern submarine. They can even absorb massive doses of extreme solar radiation without suffering the total cellular breakdown that would normally unravel DNA. This creates a biological puzzle. We know tardigrades have internal organs, nervous systems, and digestive tracts. How does an animal with a brain and a stomach walk away from physical conditions that instantly destroy standard cellular biology? Watch what happens to the tardigrade in this footage. When faced with a lethal environment, it actively expels its internal water and curls tightly into a rigid, ball-like shape. This triggers a biological process known as cryptobiosis, turning the animal into what is called a ton. Inside that ton, the animal's metabolism crashes to less than 0.01% of its normal function. For all intents and purposes, life pauses. This cellular diagram illustrates the crucial chemical defense happening under the surface. As water molecules leave the cells, the tardigrade synthesizes a glass-like protective sugar called trehalose to take their place. This precise replacement prevents cell walls from collapsing or shattering under severe stress. They stay locked in this armored state until favorable conditions return. Once rehydrated, they simply boot their metabolism back up and waddle away, sometimes after spending decades completely dormant. Tardigrades don't actually enjoy these extremes, they endure them. By hitting a biological pause button, they simply wait for the world to become habitable again. Because of this incredible trick, people often assume tardigrades are immortal. The reality is that when they are active and out of their ton state, they are surprisingly delicate animals that can be killed quite easily. In this microscopic encounter, you can see how vulnerable they actually are. Because of their tiny size, tardigrades are actively hunted by larger, single-celled organisms. This amorphous eukaryote is attempting to entirely engulf and digest the water bear. Even if they escape that, they share their ponds with creatures like the brown hydra, which hunts by firing microscopic, harpoon-like weapons called nematocysts at anything that wanders too close. They are far from invincible. cosmic superbeings. Every day, active tardigrades are desperately navigating a highly dangerous microscopic food chain, where they are very often on the menu. To understand why they evolved such extreme defenses, look closely at this photograph of vibrant green moss. The tiny water droplets clinging to those star-shaped tips represent their true, ordinary habitat. These nearly invisible, thin films of water are a tardigrade's entire world. Here, they don't swim, they walk on their 8 legs, peacefully piercing plant cells or algae to feed. But this environment is highly unstable. A thin film of water on a patch of dirt can easily dry up over the course of a single sunny afternoon. Without a way to rapidly pause their biology, a warm day would mean mass extinction. Their legendary cosmic endurance is a terrestrial adaptation. They have mastered the extremes of the universe simply to survive a patch of moss drying up